Picture, for just a moment, the packed stadiums of the past. Think about the absolute deafening roar of a crowd draped in 1,000 different colors. For so many of us, the World Cup was once football's purest dream, right? It was a tournament built entirely on raw emotion, deep cultural identity, and profound national pride. For generations, fans didn't tune in because of some brilliant corporate branding strategy or a billion-dollar television deal. No, they watched because it felt genuinely magical. Because for one brief, incredible month, every 4 years, entirely different languages, cultures, and histories were all perfectly connected by a single game. Welcome to this explainer. Today, we are stepping onto the pitch to examine a massive, undeniable transformation. We're going to look deeply at how the beautiful game's biggest event has slowly shifted from a raw human celebration into a sprawling, global financial empire.
The story of modern football really begins with this creeping, almost uncomfortable realization. You see, the magic of past tournaments felt so incredibly authentic. It felt exclusive, and strangely, for a global event, deeply intimate. But over time, a massive shift has taken hold across the global fanbase. The World Cup has become bigger, and it is undeniably richer. But a lot of people are starting to ask a really tough question. Has this incredible sporting event fundamentally transformed into a business first and a football tournament second? Because the sheer scale of modern football means it no longer moves solely through passion. It moves through enormous, almost unfathomable amounts of money. If you talk to fans and analysts, they'll heavily point to Brazil 2014. Many see it as the last tournament that truly possessed that authentic, pure World Cup aura. Think back to it. Since then, while the football on the pitch remains absolutely elite, the atmosphere surrounding it has definitely shifted. You know that organic, months-long anticipation where entire nations talked of literally nothing else from January all the way to the summer? Well, that's fading into something that feels much more calculated and packaged. So how exactly did we transition into this billion-dollar empire? Let's break down the actual machinery behind it.
FIFA has transformed into an unparalleled corporate juggernaut. We are talking about broadcasting rights worth billions of dollars and corporate partnerships that stretch across multiple continents. But if you want the clearest symbol of this massive transformation, look no further than the expansion to a 48-team format. More markets, more matches, and crucially, vastly more advertising inventory. For FIFA, bumping the tournament from 32 to 48 teams means 40 extra matches. Just think about that. 40 extra matches. That is a staggering increase in commercial exposure and raw revenue generation. It's a whole new scale.
And that leads us to the reality of today's football landscape, where absolutely everything is monetized. Club competitions are constantly expanding, commercial preseason tours are the absolute norm now, and social media turns players into standalone global brands. For a lot of supporters, the sheer machinery around the sport feels completely overwhelming. When massive sponsor logos cover every possible inch of a stadium and the sheer volume of matches dilutes the exclusivity of the event, that old intimacy just disappears. Fans aren't feeling disconnected because the football is gone. They're feeling disconnected because the raw emotion feels like it's been neatly packaged and sold right back to them.
Which brings us to the immediate future and a very real, very pressing problem: the 2026 ticket crisis. $8,680. Let that sink in for a second. According to financial analysts, that is the reported price for a premium ticket to the 2026 final. Just to put this into perspective, for the 2022 World Cup in Qatar, where fans watched Lionel Messi and Kylian Mbappe go head-to-head in arguably one of the greatest finals in the history of the sport, a premium Category 1 ticket cost around $1,600. Even the cheapest group stage games back in 2022 were roughly $70. But for 2026, the cheapest reported tickets for low-demand matches are sitting at $165, with high-demand group games soaring well past $700. The cost of entry hasn't just gone up, it has completely skyrocketed into another stratosphere. So you might be wondering, how are these tickets actually being managed? Well, FIFA created its own official resale platform. Now, ideally, a nonprofit organization might use a platform like this to fight ticket scalpers, right? Maybe by capping resale prices so actual fans can go. Instead, critics point out that FIFA's platform allows sellers to list tickets for absolutely whatever price they want with zero limits. And here's the kicker. FIFA charges a massive 15% fee to the seller and then turns around and charges another 15% fee to the buyer. This means a seller has to artificially inflate the ticket price just to break even on what they originally paid, and the buyer ends up paying a massive premium on top of that. Analysts argue that this system effectively operates as legalized scalping, facilitated entirely by the governing body itself.
But the crazy thing is, the tickets are really just the beginning of the logistical hurdles. Fans can't just take a quick, cheap train between compact host cities anymore. For 2026, they are booking incredibly costly flights across 3 massive nations, the US, Mexico, and Canada. A BBC report estimated that for a couple from England to attend just the group stages, once you factor in the travel, the hotels, and all those fees, it could cost a staggering £12,000. And it gets worse. Fans from 39 specific nations face severe visa restrictions, meaning they are completely blocked from even reaching the gates, even if they could somehow afford the trip. And honestly, this corporatization extends to the very soul of the tournament's aesthetics. Just look at the visual identity. The 2014 logo in Brazil featured 3 hands holding the trophy, symbolizing unity and a warm welcome. The 2018 Russian logo was embedded with deep cultural meaning. It had stars for space exploration and shapes mirroring traditional matryoshka dolls. They told a story about the host nation. The 2026 logo, meanwhile, has been heavily criticized as purely corporate. It is literally just a generic number 26 and a stock photo of a trophy. It feels safe, it feels highly commercial, and as fans have passionately noted online, it feels almost AI-generated. It completely lacks the deep cultural resonance of something like, say, the unforgettable 2010 anthem in South Africa. It's just bland.
And if you think 2026 sounds incredibly complex, wait until we look at the puzzle they've put together for 2030. Here is a genuine mystery we need to unravel. The 2030 World Cup will be hosted by Uruguay, Argentina, Paraguay, Morocco, Spain, and Portugal. Yes, you heard that right. 6 nations, spread across 3 different continents. Now, 2030 is the 100th anniversary of the very first World Cup, which was hosted by Uruguay. So putting games in South America makes total historical sense. But why bundle in Europe and Africa as well? Why on earth would you create such an incredibly fractured, multi-continent logistical nightmare for fans and players alike?
Well, the answer, according to the deep dive in our sources, lies hidden in FIFA's strict continent rotation rules. By bundling South America, Europe, and Africa all into the 2030 tournament, FIFA essentially checks off 3 continents at once. With North America hosting in 2026, the only remaining major continental confederations eligible to bid for 2034 are Oceania and Asia. This technical maneuvering, brilliantly, and some critics say very aggressively, clears the path almost exclusively for one specific nation to secure the 2034 bid: Saudi Arabia. It is a literal masterclass in global sports politics, ensuring the rotation rules are technically satisfied just to open up a highly lucrative market right on schedule.
But we have to step back for a minute. We need to look at the whole board, because there is another side to this argument.
It is absolutely vital, and only fair, to acknowledge that this intense commercialization does bring massive benefits to the sport. Expanding to 48 teams means more nations around the world actually believe qualification is possible. It drives major infrastructure investment in smaller footballing countries. It means the game reaches audiences and communities that previous generations could never even imagine. The immense financial engine of the World Cup builds stadiums and funds youth programs globally. But the heavy cost on the exact opposite side of the scale is severe player exhaustion, a deep, growing feeling of fan alienation, and the very real fear that top-down corporate control is permanently stripping away the tournament's unique identity.
Let's look at the actual on-pitch reality of this 48-team expansion. With more teams advancing from the group stages, the brutal truth is that nations can scrape through with minimal effort. Critics are terrified of a high volume of ultra-defensive matches, what fans colloquially call haram ball, where smaller nations just park the bus for 90 minutes hoping for a 0-0 draw. We are trading high-stakes survival for sheer quantity. The old World Cup felt exclusive, survival mattered immediately, and that created enormous edge-of-your-seat tension. Now we're adding 40 extra matches to a calendar where players are already entering the tournament completely exhausted from heavily expanded club seasons. The fear is very simple. Quantity is completely replacing intensity.
This central tension, this push and pull, is the beating heart of the entire debate. When fans complain about outrageous ticket prices or bland corporate logos or these massive expanded formats, they aren't just stubbornly clinging to the past. They are fiercely protecting the idea that the sport, at its very core, belongs to the people. It's about identity. It's about the memories, the local culture, and the hope that for 1 month every 4 years, the entire world stops to watch something that feels truly undeniably authentic. The question isn't whether commercialization exists. We know it does. It's whether a balance can still be struck before the soul of the game is lost entirely.
Which leaves us with this final, lingering thought to chew on. As the stadiums get bigger, as the ticket prices climb higher into the thousands, and the broadcast deals break new, mind-boggling records, The fundamental nature of the game is undoubtedly changing. The World Cup has become a billion-dollar pitch, but we have to ask ourselves, can football still truly belong to the fans in a world ruled by these billion-dollar ambitions? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning, keep analyzing the beautiful game, and I'll see you in the next one.